Testing, 1, 2. All right. We'll get started in a minute. Just for some housekeeping items, if you did not get a packet of information on the back there, they're back on the table where you sign in. It's not an error that there are 3 blue voting ballots for member at large. The requirement is 50% of the vote plus 1, so if we have a vote and there's not a 50% vote getter, we will drop out the lowest total, re-vote with 3 people, and so on and so forth. So the most there can be is 3 votes for that. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for your patience getting started. It was a little bit of a long sermon, but so we're a little late. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a devotion from Pastor John.
Let's join with a word of prayer. Dear Jesus, we thank you for inviting us this day to become partners with you in your Father's business, our Father's business. Help us as members of your kingdom to be as interested, as diligent, as devoted, as prudent, as courageous in our Father's business as we are in our other undertakings. Let the indwelling of your Holy Spirit supply those qualities that we lack and are needed, especially in our Father's business: brotherly love, a passion for the lost, the genius to see opportunities and to make the most of them, a willingness to let your word decide every issue, the gift to enlist the cooperation of all members of the congregation. Guide, direct, and give success to our deliberations and our decisions this day. Supply a rich measure of grace to us and others so that words and actions may contribute much to the expansion of the Father's business and to the salvation of many souls. Father, be with us in this time together as you have promised. In Jesus, amen.
Thank you, Pastor John. All right, if you don't have an agenda, they're on the back table there. The first item of a business after the devotion will be the approval of the agenda. So if you want to take a look at that and give you a minute or so to look through the agenda, and then I will request a motion for approval. All right, if everyone's had an opportunity, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written. Thank you, Jeff. Is there a second? Thanks, Tony. I heard Tony. All right, so it's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Any questions, anything that anyone wants to add? All in favor of approving the agenda as written, respond by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay. And then the fourth item of business there is the approval of the previous minutes from October 25th of 2020. Those should also be on the back table. If you want to take a couple of minutes, since that's a little bit larger of a document, take a look through those, and we'll approve those. Looks like everyone's looking back at me now, so if there's a motion, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written unless there's any concerns. We can just, okay? Mm-hmm. It's not, yes. The dedicated funds are not a part of the work plan expenditures. So the question was on the questions, we had a discussion during the October meeting about dedicated funds and how they work. And so the minutes are accurately depicted the correct answer. Any other questions? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, or excuse me, the minutes as written. Jesse, is there a second? Brian, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the previous minutes as written, respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, under the second bullet there, MMC elections. So we have elections every year. Typically, there are 3 individuals from our MMC are up every year. The way the elections work, in case you haven't been around for them in the past, we take nominations during the month of November typically. If there are multiple individuals nominated for a position, we have a ballot, and 50% of the vote plus 1 is the requirement to be elected. In addition to that, the reason that there's a purple sheet there for the treasurer and the president position, part of our constitution and bylaws requirement is to solicit for nominations from the floor during the meeting in which the slate of candidates is voted on. So I will do that at this time, and I have to do it 3 times for each position, so you'll hear me repeat it. I haven't lost my mind, it's part of the requirements. So in addition to the slate of candidates for presidency, is there a nomination from the floor? Is there a nomination from the floor? And the third and final time, is there a nomination for the president's position from the floor? All right. So we do not need to conduct a vote on that, and I will retain my position for an additional 3 years. So my master plan didn't work there for a candidate from the floor. The treasurer position is also up. For this, I wanted to just take a quick second to thank Len for his dedication to our congregation. I think he took on a role that he was maybe given some information on and didn't really wasn't really sure what he was getting into, but he did a fantastic job. He was very steadfast and dedicated in that, so thank you, Len, for that. And our treasurer candidate is Ben Bremer. Ben, if you want to wave so everyone knows who you are. Ben stepped up to the challenge when he took a call from Len, so I think maybe Len gave him a little bit more insight on what the job entails, than in the past. So thank you, Len, for that as well, and doing such a good job that he said yes. So I appreciate that. So at this time, is there any other candidates for the treasurer position from the floor? Are there any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations for treasurer from the floor? Okay, hearing none, Ben has been duly elected as the treasurer for the next 3 years as a 3-year term for treasurer. Thank you, Ben. And the last slate of candidates there is the blue, as you'll see there, the member at large vote. So there are 4 candidates. And I saw Jen is here. Jen, if you want to show everybody where you are there. And Jeannie is also here. I have not seen Rob, but maybe he snuck in. Rob's currently on the board, and his term expired. And then Justin, who was previously on the board as well. So Justin's here. And regardless of the outcome of the vote for you 3, please stick around afterwards and talk to Pastor and John and I about some things moving forward. So at this time, did everyone get a pen with their packet to vote? All right. So take one blue sheet, please, and vote for one individual. So we're only voting for one. And again, if no one gets 50% plus 1 of the first go round, we will reduce the tally, or the individuals to 3, dropping off the lowest vote getter, and vote again. And please, I'd like Brian and an elder or 2 to go around and collect, and Brian's going to be the official tally taker for the vote. There's one position open.
One 3-year term open.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah.
Correct.
But there are 4 positions open.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you have the this that has open, we are only voting for the 3-year term. The other 3 positions need to be filled by the MMC. So the MMC selects a replacement candidate, and that's why we'd like to talk to the other 3 individuals, or Robert if he's not here. So again, Brian and the elders are going to collect up the votes. Brian's going to, since Brian's on the MMC, but he's not up for election, he's going to be counting the ballots. Okay, so we're turning in one, right now we're only turning in 1 slip of paper with 1 person voted for. The other ballots are for if we don't have 50, if 1 person does not get 50% of the total votes, then we have to vote again. The requirement for the Constitution and bylaws is that they have to have 50% of the vote total plus 1 to be elected. And I apologize for the confusion. I did not realize that you had this in front of you. So the other terms are individuals who are currently sitting on the board who for one reason or another vacated the position. And our Constitution and bylaws in that case state that the MMC can appoint a member to fill out the remainder of the term. So we are voting on an official term which would expire the same time that mine does in 2023, which is currently Rob Polster's term. The other 3 individuals that had to leave for one reason or another, there's 2 2-year terms remaining and 1 1-year. So probably even made it more confusing, but we're going to vote. They're going to tally the votes while they're counting. Pastor John's going to go through some of the updates.
Yes. Yeah, and normally we don't have, it just happened to be one of those things that, and I'm sure you understand that I can't share the reasons for why those positions became vacant, but it just so happens that we have 4 positions that became open. But according to our Constitution, we vote for 3 people every year. There's usually 2 officers and a member at large, or there's 2 members at large and 1 officer. This year it's president, treasurer, and a member at large. So we're voting for the 1 3-year term, and then we are going to talk to the others who are not elected to the 3-year term. We are hoping that we can ask them to fill the other positions. So I'm just excited that we had more than enough to fill those positions. So I thank God for that. That's cool, and that's awesome. God blesses. So I think the first thing up is a financial update. So I just want to let you know that there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that we're still in the black when you look at this fiscal year as far as income over expenses. At the end of the last fiscal cycle, which would have been June 30th of 2020, we were at like 83,183 in the black. Since then, and because of COVID and less people in the pews, and which has resulted in less offerings, those numbers have come down. And at the last voters' assembly on the 25th of October of 2020, we were at 17,537 in the black. And now, as of the end of November, we are still in the black, but again, the number is getting smaller. We're 6,164 income over expenses. So we are still in the black, but the number is getting smaller. Again, one of the challenges we have, of course, now is now that at the last meeting on October 25th, we moved the mortgage into the work plan. So we're no longer having a pledge drive where we're encouraging pledges. But that doesn't mean we still don't need the money, obviously. The $207,170 that we need for our mortgage for the year still has to be paid. This time, instead of coming as a result of an annual appeal, it's coming out of the work plan. So all we can do is continue to encourage, whether people are attending worship on site or whether they are attending worship at home, to continue bringing in your offerings and to support the mission and ministry here. So that's where we're at with the financials. Our attendance, when we started, we started on-site worship in June, and we began at about 40%. So in other words, 40% of the people that normally would come to worship were coming. When we got to fall, that number went up to about 51, 52%. When Governor Walz made his executive order in November, Executive Order 2099, where he instilled more restrictions. Didn't really affect churches, but it did affect churches because the numbers went down. And our numbers basically went down to 36%. So we went from 40 to 50 down to 36%. Our Christmas Eve attendance, as you can see, or you can't see it. You don't have that in front of you. Our Christmas Eve attendance for 2020 was 45% of what it was for 2019. So we're at about the same number. So again, if I can tie back into the financial report, usually your finances go, for the most part, your finances go as your attendance goes. And so it's not a surprise, although people continue, even though they aren't attending church on site, people are continuing to faithfully and regularly give. Sometimes, however, it's just out of sight, out of mind. I know that's true for me. All we can do at this point is just continue to encourage people to continue to support the mission and ministry at Mount Olive. Yes?
What about online attendance?
Well, online attendance is a little more difficult to graph, but if you go by people who are engaging the services, we have 450 people who are engaging every week. It's very fantastic. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's 450 devices. Now, we don't know. That means that an engagement means that they are on for at least 3 minutes. They could be on for the whole time, but they're on for at least 3 minutes. So, yes, that's good news. And that's another reason why we are upping our game here as far as cameras and so forth to provide a better product online, because online is not going to go away. Online is going to stay for all churches. So, yes, good question. Pardon? Sure. Do we need to vote again? Okay.
Okay, so in case there's more confusion, I hope this doesn't confuse it more. Does everyone have one of these bio sheets? Okay, good.
Good.
All right, so we did not have a vote total of 50% plus one. So please take another blue sheet and vote for one person with the exception of Rob Pulser. Rob was the lowest vote getter in the first round, so Rob is not eligible to get votes this time. So between Jen, Jeannie, or Justin, please vote for one and hand your vote back into the collection plate, please. One quick reminder too, if you did not sign in on the back table in the sign-in sheets, please do so.
And of course, since we're using offering plates, so if you want to throw in some money in there, go ahead. All right, just to give you some COVID-19 updates, we have had a couple people on the school side that have been exposed to COVID, and they went through and isolated and so forth and so on. One of the classes shut down for a couple of weeks. But other than that, we haven't had anybody on staff. Obviously, we continue to have members who have had COVID-19. A couple of them were mentioned in prayers today, Elaine Petter and I forget the other. So continue, obviously, to keep that in prayer. So I mentioned Executive Order 2099. This is one thing that, whenever basically I've had to become a student of Minnesota Health Department, regulations, especially as it applies here. And so whenever a new order comes out, I have to read through it, particularly the parts that would affect us directly. The one that came into effect that we've been under has been 50% When they reopened churches, it was at 50% with a 250 maximum capacity. And now with the new one that came out last week, Order 21-01, that is 50%, but now there's no maximum listed. However, that doesn't affect us here at Mount Olive, because 50%, as we have it designated now, with every other pew marked off, with people socially distant, we can fit 150 down in this main level, 30 on each side of the balconies, and then another 30 or whatever it is out there. So it's a total of 250 with the main sanctuary, the 2 balconies, and the Welcome Center. So that does not affect us. We still can have 250 people. But it would make a difference for some of the larger churches who have kept their doors closed because they could only have 250. But I did not see it 250 maximum anymore listed in the new order. Any questions on that? So and then I mentioned the upgrade here. What we are doing is, you perhaps have noticed there's one camera on the back wall and there's one camera up there. Those 2 cameras we have been using for worship, along with the camera on the tripod back there. This coming week, we have purchased, and then we've had screens up there with projectors behind, so they were rear projection cameras. We had 2 there, and then we had one projector way up on top with a long throw that would throw up an image up on the back wall for us leaders who were up on top. All of those cameras and the projectors were ancient. Tom Seibert had to spend a lot of time on eBay looking for parts, which are almost non-existent now. And especially then with the coming of the global pandemic, we felt it was necessary for us to upgrade our equipment. So we are getting 2 new cameras. They're called PTZ cameras, point, tilt, zoom. And then we're adding a 3rd over there. And then we are getting, instead of, the technology has changed now too, and everything's going high def at 16:9 resolution, so widescreen. So we are putting up, we filled up those holes, and we're putting in new screens on both of those walls, and 3 new projectors, 2 and 1 hanging from the rafters, plus some new equipment up there for live streaming. So fortunately, we had the money available to us set aside in our designated funds. So we didn't have to ask for a special offering, and we were able to cover with undesignated memorials, etc. We were able to cover the cost of that project. So hopefully people will experience a much better, higher quality product online when they worship. Do you have another announcement to make?
Yep. All right, so last one, since this round, unless there's a tie, there shouldn't be, with an odd number of people here, but the final 2 to vote for one, please, is Jeannie or Justin. And again, in the worst kept secret in Mount Olive today, we're going to ask the other 3 people to fill out the remainder of the open terms. So please, after we announce the winner of the member-at-large vote, the other candidates, please stick around, and we'll contact Rob as well. So.
All 4 at-large members, and Ben, why don't you come forward after the service?
So again, Jeannie or Justin, vote for one, please. And if you haven't signed in, please do so.
Any questions on the worship center camera projector upgrade thing, project? That's going to start tomorrow, and so we'll be ready to go next week. So, looking forward to that. I'm going to rely on Carol here for this some of this information because I'm not sure about my memory. Drive-through Nativity, which happened on December 20th, which was a real cool deal. We had no idea what to expect. I know that our expectations were exceeded, and I believe the last number I remember hearing is 186 cars, or ish. 186-ish, 189 cars in an hour or a little more. That was great. And we had 60-plus people who were singing and taking various scenes and doing the things that needed to be done and ushering in and out cars and all those kinds of things. It was... And as well as the Reese's. Thank you so much to the Reese's for allowing us to invade their property. It was really a cool night. It really was. It was a great night. Red Letter Challenge, again, that starts today. There is, just so you are aware, there are several pastor friends of mine, and there's a couple of churches in our circuit as well, Family of Christ in Ham Lake and Messiah Mounds View, who have done the Red Letter Challenge, and they said it really was a good thing for their church and a good thing for them to just renew and refresh. We were just Tony and I were just talking beforehand, and Tony just mentioned that in the sermon I mentioned the recipe, or what that God has given us the recipe in Scripture, but we all have recipes at home. We have shelves of recipe books, and we have I have some of Mom's and this, that, and the other recipes, but they don't do us any good if we don't use them, right? And sometimes when we use them, it takes a little work. We may make my mom's. You mentioned mom's meatloaf. You make mom's meatloaf and it doesn't quite taste like mom's. Well, that's because you got to keep working at it and keep trying. So, God has given us the recipe of what we need to do. This gives us the opportunity to not only look at the recipe, read it, but also to use it. So that's going to go through Tuesday, and I'm not sure about the date. I think it's the 16th, the day before Ash Wednesday. I believe Ash Wednesday is February 17th. So we're going to be going from now until Lent for the 40-day challenge. Looking forward to what might happen. Human Resources team, I believe we talked about that at the last meeting. We are using it's an MMC task force. There is 7 of us on the committee or on the team, and we're working at filling 3 positions: the worship director, the Mount Olive Early Childhood Center director, as well as a DCA. So right now the application for worship director has been out there. We've had a few. We've had 12 actually who have responded to that job description, and we have narrowed it down to 3, and so we are working at it. So, and our team will probably need to meet here soon so that we can see where we go from here. And then we're going to put out the position for the MOECC director. That's going to go out here very soon. I'm sure you saw the announcement about Linda's celebration. Again, it's not a celebration like we normally would celebrate with a meal, etc., but we are going to recognize her in services on January 31st, and she's officially retired now. Her last day was December 31st, and right now the way it's being covered is there was another office person added to work alongside of Carrie Watkins, and then there's the team of the teachers as well as Carrie and Amy working along with the 4 teachers will be kind of keeping things going and running and meeting regularly to cover the rest of the school year. Sure. MOECC, which is Mount Olive Early Childhood Center. Director, yes. And then DCA is Director of Church Administration. Again, the last initials we used for that position was DBAO, which was Director of Business Administration and Operations. But basically it was the same position. That was the position most recently vacated by John Holtz. There's 3. Worship Director, replacing Kristen. And we're replacing the Worship Director portion of it right now. She was Worship Director, Outreach Director, so right now we're looking for Worship Director. Anything else there? Any other questions? I think that's it for my report.
All right, thanks, Pastor John. So the final tally for the 2020 term that expired, so this member at large will be filling out a 3-year term, will be Justin. Congratulations, Justin. And again, the other 3 individuals, so Jeannie, Jen, and Rob, we would like everyone who got elected today, and as well as was on the candidate slate, to stay after. I think we're going to thumb wrestle for the 2-year and the 1-year terms. So the last piece of business then, I know it says President's Address on there, but I didn't really have much of anything other than to just continue to thank you for your continued support of Mount Olive, fighting through the last year of 2020 uncertainty. Can we go to church? Can we not go to church? And to express my gratitude to the staff as well for being flexible. And Pastor John mentioned the drive-through nativity and just the things that have come to pass over the last year that we had been used to. We didn't have a trunk or treat event. The Rally Sunday looked different. And sometimes people think that change, that people don't like to change. Well, I would challenge that statement and say people don't mind change. Obviously, they get haircuts. They can't all be as good as mine, but people do get haircuts. Or they want to change their body shape, so they take up fitness, or they move into a new house. So those are all changes. They buy a new car. That's a change. People enjoy change. It's just they want to change in their own way. They want to change at their own pace. They want their decision to be the change. So obviously 2020 was not a change that any of us wanted to do. And it wasn't a change that our staff certainly wanted to take on either. So I appreciate the fact that they fought through it and they made the best of it. So thank you to Pastor John and Carol and Alex, who's up there paying attention. And Brenda and everyone. So I'm not trying to leave out any people, but Todd as well. It was amazing to see from nobody being allowed to how many people can come in to where we're at now. You know, we're using all the means necessary to accomplish the goal of reaching out to people and bringing them to Christ. So thank you for that.
The last item of business, again, is kind of unprecedented in our synod because we are living in unprecedented times. We have been asked, we received every congregation in the synod received a 3-page letter from Matthew Harrison, our synodical president, asking us to answer a question on our behalf regarding the current triennium. I'm going to explain what that is. So our synod is based on a 3-year cycle. The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod is based on a 3-year cycle. So 1 year you're going to have a district convention where you're going to meet with congregations in your district, and then the following year is a synodical convention where representatives from each district come together and vote on a variety of memorials and elections and so forth and so on. And then the third year is what they call circuit forums. I can't remember the last time a circuit forum was done within our circuit, but basically it's meant to be kind of a motivational gathering or some kind of a learning event for congregations in circuit. We are in the North Suburban Circuit of our district. There is 9 churches in our circuit, and then there is 240 churches in our district. And then there are 39 districts in synod, okay? So I threw a lot of numbers out there. So here's the problem that we find ourselves in. So normally, 2021 would be the year where districts would meet in convention in order to elect officers and so forth and so on, and submit memorials and things to the synod for their convention in 2022. The problem is that are all of the districts going to be able to meet in convention during 2021 because of current restrictions and so forth and so on? Right now, a majority of those districts wouldn't even be able to meet in convention. And there's difficulties with meeting online, especially when you're talking about hundreds of people and voting and all those kinds of things. And so you have basically two problems with district conventions. One is the hospitality hospitality industry right now is handicapped at best, and some of them wouldn't even be able to handle a larger convention at this point. And secondly, under current restrictions in various states, I would say a majority of the states right now wouldn't be able to meet in convention. So they've looked at all of the Constitution amendments and bylaws and so forth and so on, and they found under the bylaws that they would be able to have or to add a year to a current triennium. So in other words, the synodical convention would not be held in 2022. It would be held in 2023. That way there is 2021 and 2022 for districts to meet in convention over a 2-year period. And then the convention would meet 1 year later. So that is their proposal. They have to have a majority, it's a 2/3 majority of congregations in our synod have to answer yes in order for that to happen. And so they are asking each congregation, anybody know how many congregations there are in synod? Take a guess. 6,300, maybe 6,200, somewhere in between there. So of the 6,000 plus congregations, they are asking each congregation to vote yes or no to add a year to the triennium. So what you should have received in your packet is the proposal, the question: shall the synod add a year to the current 2019-2022 triennium, allowing districts to hold their conventions in either 2021 or 2022, and moving the upcoming National Synod Convention from 2022 to 2023. Thereafter, the triennium cycle will continue forward from 2023 in 3-year increments as before. So that is a yes or no question that we have before us.
Question, so at those conventions, typically elections are held for positions at the district and synod level.
Yes.
Does that mean that those terms are extended until that convention?
Yes. So instead of a 3-year term, they will be changed to a 4-year term.
Is there a recommendation from the president or the overseeing?
So, yes, as the chair, I would seek unanimous consent to vote yes on this. So we would, if there's unanimous consent, we don't have to do a paper ballot vote. But my rationale, again, is the same. While there is a sunnier outlook for 2021, it's still in question whether things will be lifted or they'll be lifted and then put back in place as far as restrictions. With the ability to do this as a synod that they've found in the Constitution and bylaws to extend by a year, I think it's the better part of discretion to do so. It gives all the congregations an opportunity to fully form their ideas moving into a convention that could be squeezed into 2021 just to cover the current requirement. So I would ask for unanimous consent to say Mount Olive votes yes on this proposal. Nope. Yep, so I would just, so the way unanimous consent would work is now that I've made the request as the chair for unanimous consent, if there is no dissenting party in the meeting, then that unanimous consent would pass. So is there any opposition to saying yes by unanimous consent to the LCMS convention proposal? All right, hearing none, that proposal passes with a yes by unanimous consent.
And it quite simply ensures that each congregation and each district gets a voice. Whereas if they would have continued on the current triennium, some might not have been able to meet and thus not have a voice. So, very good. I agree.
That is the conclusion of the agenda there. And prior to motioning for an adjournment, just a reminder for Justin and Ben and Jeannie and Jen, please come talk to Pastor and I. Prior to heading out, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Mary, a second. Thank you. All right, it's been motioned and second to adjourn. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Opposed? All right, well, the meeting is adjourned. We'll close with the Lord's Prayer.